everybody, and welcome to this month's ISV Spotlight solution. This month we are featuring Prophix Corporate Performance Management. Prophix is a CPM solution addressing your needs of reporting, planning, forecasting, and consolidation with direct integration to your ERP as well as any other database you might have in your organization. Turnkey is partnered with Prophix to deliver an end-to-end solution that extends the value of your data by automating your reporting and planning processes across your organization. I will now turn it over to Chris Porter, who will be delivering the presentation and demonstration of Prophix today.
Thanks, Kayla, and hi everybody. Thanks for taking the time out of your schedule today to meet with us. Just a quick little housekeeping item. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask. We just ask that during the presentation you use the chat window whereby you can ask questions to the team, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. So just to give a little agenda, we're first going to foremost introduce Prophix as a CPM solution. So first and foremost, what is CPM? Secondly, what is Prophix? How do they stack up in the space? Then we're going to go right into a Prophix live demonstration and talk a little bit about some of the customers that are currently using Prophix. So Prophix was established in the late 80s, so they've been in business for, or we've been in business for a little over 28 years. The company was founded by a group of financial analysts, so this is something that's really key and important to keep in mind, that ultimately our company was founded by a group of people who did the same jobs that you guys do today. Their goal was to ultimately find a way to more efficiently do the work that they do. So Prophix very much has a soft spot for the Office of Finance as a result of our founders being financial analysts and CFOs. The company, as a result of being in business for a little over 28 years, has a little over 2,600 customers in 92 countries. So it's very much a global organization. Our headquarters is located just outside of Toronto, Canada. However, we do have offices all over Canada and the United States, as well as London, Denmark, and Brazil. We very much leverage industry expertise and our partner base, which includes Turnkey, to really deliver not just software to their customers, but deliver solutions to ultimately better run their business. A couple of the other things that are important to note about Prophix is that not only are they a rapidly growing company, but Prophix as an organization is continually recognized by organizations such as British Finance and British Accountancy, or sorry, Business Finance and British Accountancy, which are truly testaments to the application itself, the customers that use it, and its ability to help businesses ultimately run their Office of Finance and run their business in a more efficient way. So as an organization, Prophix is very proud to not only deliver a solution that customers want and that we're rapidly growing, but a solution that is really recognized by its peers in the finance and accountancy world. So as Kayla mentioned, Prophix is not just a budgeting and reporting solution. It comes out of the box with the capability to do everything from forecasting to analysis, to financial consolidations, to dashboards, to operational planning and strategic planning. So ultimately, what this means for organizations such as yourselves is you can start off using Prophix as a budgeting and reporting solution, as many other organizations have, but over time you can grow into and you can begin to use other functionality and other features that the application has to offer. The beauty of this is that Prophix is not modular based in its pricing, but rather you own the application from day one, and then you can simply use all the different features that Prophix has to offer as you require to use them. So what this ultimately means is you can really drive a continuous return on investment with the solution without the consistent and high cost of things like modules and subscriptions, but rather you can really drive return on investment from the application as you begin to use more and more of the features that it has to offer. The key benefits of Prophix, as customers have said, is that it's a solution that truly automates the way that they do business and truly automates the way that they run their business, to produce reports, to do analysis. Prophix is a tightly integrated solution with solutions such as GP, but a little over 200 other databases. And so with Prophix, it not only helps you produce reports in a quicker amount of time, but because you're producing reports in a more efficient way, you can ultimately spend more time doing analysis. You can spend more time understanding your business and doing things like forecasting, doing things like detailed planning and whatnot. So it's a solution that really offers a lot to the customers that use it, but in a very simple way. You'll see in the application that everything we're doing is completely driven by a click and drag, point and click type of interface. This is not the type of solution that requires users to know specific formulas or specific syntax, but rather it's a solution that you can truly own as a finance business or as a sales organization. You can truly own this application and maintain it independently without having to rely on technical resources or IT in order to maintain it. The customers that use Prophix are truly, across all business units, across all industries. So this is really a testament to the solution being used across, not just all types of verticals, but all types of data. Since every business in this, graph or in this slide here ultimately uses Prophix in very different ways. So it really is a testament to the ability for Prophix to adapt beyond just a typical financial reporting and budgeting solution, but into a project management solution, into a consolidation solution. So it's really a solution that if you can think up the idea, Prophix can really help you execute on it very simply. In terms of the demo, so jumping over to the demo agenda, we're first going to look at monitoring performance. So like you saw on the graph earlier, Prophix offers dashboarding and scorecarding. So it really allows you to monitor your business from a KPI or a dashboard type of level. But that's really only the starting point. So we're going to kind of jump into other areas of reporting as well. From there, we're also going to jump into budgeting and planning. So planning out your P&L, your balance sheet, your cash flow. We're also going to talk about, though, how a lot of organizations don't just simply plan at their ledger level, but they actually do detailed roll-up of their budgets. So they may do personnel planning, so that'll roll up to the P&L, the payroll accounts in the P&L. They also may do sales planning, and that'll roll up to the area of the revenue and COGS in their P&L. So ultimately showing how Prophix can allow an organization to do all that planning in a single solution and instantly in real time see how changes to those detailed plans affect the bottom line of their business on the financial statements. And then lastly, we're going to talk about automated reporting as well as mobile and web access. So for those of you who have seen Prophix before or have been to this webinar before, we have a really exciting thing to show you today, which is the Prophix version 12 web client. So allowing users to access Prophix through a HTML5 web address, and so you can really, you're going to get to see something really special and really understand that Prophix now is really truly mobile and web enabled. So I'm going to jump over to the demo now, and I'm just going to make sure everybody can see everything correctly. So looks like we're moved over. So like I said, we're going to start off sort of from a monitoring performance perspective or from a dashboard perspective. So when your users log into Prophix, you can set it up such that the first thing that they will see is a dashboard. So first and foremost, they log into the solution and they're immediately, front and center looking at all the KPIs that they have access to, or just charts that are giving them information that they want to see. So for example, I have my various KPIs, financial KPIs here, but what this is also showing me is that Prophix is not only just looking at general ledger data, but it's also pulling out customer data or product data. It's also showing us revenue trends. It's also showing us cash projections. So it's showing us all this different types of data in a single solution. So that's why when you think about Prophix, you can think about it as a financial solution initially, but because it integrates to the entire database, not only your ERP, but you may have a CRM system as well, you can really bring that data in and make Prophix the central single version of the truth for all your different reporting and planning needs. From this dashboard, though, this is really the launching point for your users to then do further analysis. So in the Office of Finance, we hear a lot that they spend a lot of time doing their month end, they spend a lot of time responding to ad hoc requests. And the month-end process, in and of itself, is pretty repeatable. It's consistent, but there are inefficiencies in it. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Where a lot of the questions come oftentimes is that people have ad hoc report requests. So you provide them with their monthly package, and then they have further questions about well, what is this figure that I'm seeing, and from a variance perspective, what's making up that variance? I didn't expect that there was going to be those types of transactions. So can you provide me with the transactional view, or can you pivot the data to show me my departments broken up by that account? Things like that are ultimately very time-consuming for an Office of Finance. So with Prophix, you can present them with this dashboard, and from this point, they can really begin to answer those questions independently with the click of their mouse. So first and foremost, when I log into this and I see the data that I have access to, I see that marketing has a red square. So on the operating expense variance dashboard, I see that there's a red square. So if I want to get more information about that, all I simply have to do is just double click on the red square. The red square will then open up a supporting report, which will then provide me further detail behind the variance. So I can see right here that travel costs is making up $26,000 in the red on that variance. I can also see that there's a group of departments that I have access to. So when I open this report, something that's very important to note, and this is something that will really help you in your month-end cycle in producing reports, is that every report that I open as my user in Prophix, I only see the data and I only see the elements that I have access to. So if you can think about the amount of time that you might spend every month just simply creating tab after tab or template after template, either in Excel or in your reporting solution, if you think about that amount of time that you're just simply creating versions to try to adopt a report to somebody's security, Prophix is going to eliminate all of that. So our technology allows you to set up user security in the system such that when they access a report like this, they will only see the departments or the accounts or the different elements of the general ledger that they should have access to. So again, we have our 3 departments here followed by total marketing. And so when I look into this report, I can quickly and easily see all the data that I have access to. Now, a common question finance oftentimes gets is, what are the transactions? So what's making up this $72,000? Was there one transaction or a group of transactions that are throwing my variance off? So in order to get more information about that, all I simply have to do is right-click and hit Drill Across. Drill Across will provide me with a real-time transaction across to the ERP. So if you're on Great Plains or AX, whatever you might be on, you can get all of those transactions in real time. So think about the number of times that you might get that question in a month or a quarter of, give me the transactions. I want to see those. At the end user, they can right-click and within 2 clicks get all the information that they need. So I'm at the total travel cost level. So in this case, I'm seeing a group of accounts that are rolling up to this account. So there's a whole bunch of accounts, there's a whole bunch of departments. So what this allows you to do is perform transactional drill throughs at any level of your roll-up structure. You don't always have to be at the bottom level, so we can do it at a very high level. Furthermore, if you guys are using any kind of document imaging systems or paperless systems, you might be using QuickTag, you can actually hyperlink those into your drill across as well. So I can scroll through here and see all of the invoices that I have been loaded into the system. So if I see that there's a $15,000 invoice, I may want to click on it, and I may want to actually see the exact invoice that's been provided for that transaction. So again, this type of analysis, this type of independent analysis that your users are doing are ultimately saving you time simply answering these types of questions. So we've made this simple, we've made it easy to use because we want users to embrace the solution. We want users to be accountable for their data. Again, though, this may not just be the only type of question that you get on a monthly basis. They may want to see the various departments up here in the drop-downs pivoted on the travel cost account so they can figure out which department or 2 made up the majority of the $26,000 variance. So from here, I can simply just right-click on that $72,000. Instead of going to Drill Across, I can go to Analyze. Analyze is going to take the same piece of data but open it up in a free-form environment that I can now slice and dice, click and drag, drill down. I can get all that information. So first and foremost, what I might want to do is I might want to see if there's a particular account in the travel cost category that's making up to $26,000. So I can right-click or I can double-click on the plus sign and see all of these accounts. The reason we can do this is that Prophix is built on a OLAP or a hierarchy-based or a cube-based system. So what that means is you can build reports that are very high level, but from those reports you can go down the different levels of your roll-up structure and go down the different levels of your hierarchy because those hierarchies are centrally maintained. So no matter where I go in the system, if I start at a very high level of total sales or even at the total net income, I can go down level after level after level because the system is built on that hierarchy. You're no longer just dealing with individual spreadsheets or individual roll-up structures that you've built into a report, but rather I can go from that report up here, which is very high level, down to my ad hoc and down to my accounts, just in a very seamless click and drag type of environment. And that's because of the technology that Prophix is built on in our system. So from here, like I said, my question was I want to figure out which one of my departments makes up the majority of this airfare. So airfare is quite clearly the big culprit here. So I want to take my departments and figure out which one of them makes up the majority of this $39,000 in actuals. So all I have to do is simply just click on my organization segment of my ledger, drag it down to my account, and immediately now it provides me with that information. So again, just a simple click and drag, and I get all the information that I'm looking for. So I can now see it's $25,000. That's the majority of it. So I could right-click on it again, go back to my drill across. It'll provide me with a shorter list of transactions because now we've clicked down our roll-up, we've clicked down the hierarchy, and once again, I still see that $15,000 expense. So it's pretty clear to me that's the majority of the variance. So but what I might want to do is I might want to see, well, did we budget for that? And so in Prophix, and we'll loop back to this in a second, but in Prophix, you can actually require your users when they're planning out their budget to provide line item details or a transactional budget. So in this case, because in the original budget, which we're going to go over to in a second, someone did provide a transactional line item detail, I can see there's a triangle here, a blue triangle. So in here, I can simply just right-click on it, go to line item details, and I can view that original transactional budget that was created. So if there's accounts like travel that you want to have people provide trip-by-trip information, you can have them do that in the system. So I can quite clearly see we didn't budget a $15,000 expense. So in that case, I'm going to go back to my ad hoc. I'm going to right-click on the variance, and I'm going to add a piece of commentary. So I'll say right here that unbudgeted 15K trip. And what I can do is if I want, I can actually attach that invoice that was booked to that. So I can attach it, and along with that invoice, I can put in that piece of commentary. So here's that invoice. We'll add it to the piece of commentary such that if somebody comes back into this, they'll be able to see that invoice that we've added to the system. The beauty of this is that all of the data is loaded into the system. It's not just template by template like you would experience in Excel, where commentary is specific to a template, but rather you can put this piece of commentary in there, and if someone else were to access the same exact view or that same variance, that will show up. So it's really great because it provides transparency and consistency across the data. So now that I've done that, we're going to loop back to the budgeting process to kind of talk about how we might have got to this 8450 in the budgeting process. So that kind of wraps up a little bit of the reporting side of things. We will loop back to that again later on, but I'm going to go back to my home screen here, and from my home screen I'm going to launch into our budget cycle project. So within Prophix, there is an excellent tool that allows you to do collaborative planning whereby you're sending out templates to different users, they're filling them out, they're then providing them back to you, and then you're updating the plan. So within Prophix, we developed an app called workflow. So this is really similar to the workflow applications you might have used in your ERP system, whereby you assign a task to a user, the task gets completed, and the next person approves it. So in Prophix, you can do that same type of process when it comes to your budgeting. So within each task, we have an owner, we have a secondary owner, and when we can have multiple approvers. So you can set up all the different elements of your planning process here in the workflow and then really set it and forget it as the process goes through itself. So first and foremost, we review our historicals. That's the first step. Secondly, we complete our OPEX plan. Third, our personnel plan. Then we provide a reforecast of the original plan. Then we go into sales planning, CapEx planning. We do any allocations we have to do. So you can truly set this up as though it is an actual project. So gone are the days where you're going to have to manage your budgeting process through Outlook, through Excel, have to track people down. The other thing that's great about workflow is that it really centralizes the planning process. So oftentimes organizations will go through various iterations of a plan. So they may go through version 1, version 2. They may change the template. These are things that oftentimes clients express as a pain point of doing budgeting through Excel and through Outlook, that people get confused as to what version they're on or get confused as to what template they should be using. Centrally with here in the workflow, you can maintain the version that people would be using in the planning cycle. You can also maintain the template that they should be using as well. So if I need to change this template at any given time, I can change it centrally here. From an end user perspective, they're just going to simply receive an email with a link that will send them into Prophix. So Prophix takes all advantage of Active Directory, of your email exchange, and it will use it as a means of producing and sending out those task reminders. But accessing the task is not something you're going to do as a means of receiving Excel template, but rather you're going to receive an email and you're going to get a link in that email to send you into your home screen in Prophix. So in the home screen right here, I can see all the tasks that I have assigned. So quite clearly I have a lot of work to do. So firstly, I need to complete my department OPEX task. So like I said, if you change around the version, if you change around the template, all that's happening in the work. So ultimately, you can really rest assured that people are not going to get confused with those little things that they experience in Excel. So if I click on my department OPEX task, it will then up a template to begin filling out the different elements of my department OPEX. So in this case, I receive a template. The beauty of these templates and the beauty of these reports in Prophix is that you can use the exact same formatting ribbon that you use in Excel. So what that means is users are going to feel familiar, they're going to feel comfortable using these reports and templates. So when I open up this template, I can see there's a forecast here. So there's a 9+3 forecast. As a result of Prophix having both the ERP data as well as the planning data, you can put those two data sets together very easy using the scenario wizard, which will allow you to create a new version or scenario and then combine your actuals and your budget just by simply choosing start and end dates of those different scenarios. So in this case, I chose 9+3, meaning that from October through to December, we have a forecast, but everything prior is pulling in from the actuals, pulling in from the ERP. So a lot of organizations will start with this type of a baseline, and they'll start with a forecast, and then they'll plan forward throughout the remainder of the year. So in this case, I can plan month by month as I normally would. However, people may not want to do that. They may want to plan at an annual level. So in this case, if we plan out $100,000, or let's plan out $110,000 for this account. And I'm doing this at the annual level. So I'm not doing this month by month, cell by cell. I'm choosing a specific department, and I'm choosing the entire year as a starting point for this expense. In this case, Prophix opens up 4 native spreading options or allocation options to then take that $110,000 and then spread it across to the months. In order to do this in Excel, it would require a fair amount of programming. It would require a fair amount of formulas. But with Prophix and the technology that it offers, it's completely out of the box. There's none of that required. So firstly, I can choose spread evenly. Spread evenly will take my $110,000. It will then allocate it out to the various months and divide it by the number of periods that I'm planning for. So it could be 6, it could be 12, it could be 24 months that I'm planning for. The second option is to spread based on the data that's already there. So if you provide your users with a baseline budget and they want to use that baseline weighting month by month, they can simply choose the second option. The third option is where you in finance, you might want to choose, a specific spreading or a specific weighting for each individual month. So you can set that up by using a member property. The fourth option, and this is really the most powerful option, and an option that really exemplifies the technology of Prophix using the cubes, is that I use another piece of data as a means of allocating my cost. So for example, I may want to use headcount as a means of spreading out the various costs within within this expense. So in this case, this piece of data isn't even necessarily in this template, but it's in the system. So what we're really allowing you to do is utilize that data you've loaded into Prophix as a means of doing things like planning. So in this case, I'm going to go to my accounts. When I open up the various accounts, I'm prompted with my balance sheet hierarchy, which again is very visual, very simple to understand. I'm also prompted with my P&L hierarchy, so the different elements of my P&L. And thirdly, my cash flow hierarchy, so have all of that data in there as well. But then lastly, I'm also prompted with a bunch of drivers or statistical pieces of data. So you could load in operational statistics, KPIs, whatever it might be. So in this case, I want to use FTE or I want to use headcount as a means of spreading this across to the individual months. So in this case, I'm going to use FTE. So by using FTE, it's going to go into the cube, it's going to get that data, it's going to calculate the weighted average for me, and ultimately spread it across to the months accordingly. So do I want to continue? Yes, I do. So it's going to go into the system, do all those calculations for me, and allocate the data accordingly. So ultimately, this is really showing the power of Prophix to utilize that data as a means of producing a more valid, a more reasonable budget. So again, I can put a piece of commentary in there to add it in. I can say spread based on FTE. And again, if that piece of commentary is found by producing another report, it will automatically be there. We don't have to chase it down like we do in Excel. The other option, which I showed earlier, was if you want to allow people to do, or require people to do, most importantly, to do budgeting at a line item or a transactional level, you can right-click on any date and you can set up a line item details. This is, again, just a simply out-of-box feature whereby we're simply going to provide justification line by line, item by item. So, we might want to go to the GPUG event in Tampa, which hopefully all of you are going to. So we're going to go to that event, and I believe that event is in October this year, so we'll put down a budget of $5,000. So I can put this down at a month-by-month level. I could also do it at an annual level as well and spread it across to the months like we showed earlier. But this is where we're providing line by line, item by item, and so we're going to have 2 tickets for this. We click Save, and then we go back to our template whereby that data in October is now updated. So we have an additional item here. It's now $7,000. It's a combination of my $5,000 and the existing $2,000 that was already there. So it's this type of planning that Prophix really allows you to do out of the box without having to do any kind of setup or coding. The other type of planning I want to quickly show you is driver-based planning. So a lot of organizations will require their users to do a driver-based plan. So in this case, we're planning out headcount times the dues and subscriptions rate, and then planning out the dues and subscriptions account. So you can actually set up driver-based calculations. So in this case, if I wanted to plan out 10 times 250, it will ultimately plan that out and put it into my account. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I can do that type of planning in the system. So now we're at $21,000 in dues and subscriptions. The other last type of planning I want to show you when it comes to general ledger level planning, this is before we're going to go into the detailed sales and personnel, is where a lot of organizations will do top-down planning. So they'll plan all of the IT costs or shared services costs for the entire organization, and then they'll allocate it down based on the number of heads or the square footage or the production or the utilization, any number of drivers or KPIs. So in this case, I'm planning at the individual marketing department level. I may want to go up to the overall marketing level, so total marketing, all of the departments. In this case, I can plan out the entire IT GL line item all in one fell swoop. So in this case, if I wanted to plan $600,000 in IT for my entire marketing department, I again get options where I can spread it across to the months based on evenly, based on existing data. In this case, it's asking me how I want to spread it across to the months. So in this case, I want to allocate an even amount to each individual department in my marketing spend. So I can choose evenly. But in the case where I want to spread it down to my departments, I can choose a different allocation method that I can say, I want to spread it based on FTE. So again, I can go back into my driver accounts, I can choose FTE, and it's going to then look at each individual department and spread it accordingly. So I click OK. It's going to then allocate across to the individual months. It's going to look at all of the individual departments, of which there are 3, and it's going to allocate those costs accordingly. So if I go over to content marketing got 15K, and they have 8. If I go over to field marketing and I look them up, they have 9. So they should have a little bit more in terms of spend. So yes, they have 16,000. So that kind of wraps up a little bit of the general ledger style planning of the P&L or balance sheet ledger level planning. What I want to transition over to next is where organizations plan below the ledger, or they plan using a different data set that ultimately rolls up into the general ledger. So in this case, this portion of my template is blank and it's grayed out, meaning that I can't fill it out in here, I can't edit it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch into the detailed plan. So the detailed planning allows me to build up this portion of the ledger or portion of the P&L using a detailed plan, which may be using a different data set. So with Prophix, we can also integrate to your payroll system to allow you to do employee level planning using the exact same calculations and elements that your payroll system does for things like earnings, benefits, taxes, and so on. So in this case, I need to go back to my home screen, and there's a secondary task for me to fill out, which is my personnel plan. So again, the workflow is monitoring this. We're setting a second task because it's a second template. But the beauty of Prophix, as we talked about earlier, is that it's completely unified. So what that means is you can do this level of planning in the system where now we're dealing with employees, we're dealing with positions, salaries, states, all of these different data elements. But that data is always integrated and it's always a part of the system. And so a lot of organizations struggle with this type of planning because it takes so much time to simply take this detail and then make sense of it or consolidate it into the income statement or the balance sheet or the cash flow. So with this in Prophix, it allows you to do all this type of planning and then configure all of these different data sets over to your P&L. And you simply just line up, calculation to account. Very simple. It's a really simple to use wizard to do that. So my goal though is I need to get this data back to my P&L or my OPEX plan. All I simply have to do is just hit update. By hitting update, we'll then update the finance cube. So, it's updated all of our P&L, our balance sheet, our cash flow, all that data is connected together. Clicking OK. I can then go back to my OPEX plan, hit refresh, and at this financial level, we have all of our financial data at the payroll level. And the beauty of that is that all that data is connected, so you can truly do what if scenario, you can do what if analysis on the data. So that's kind of the beauty of this solution is that you could say, well, what if we add a new head? What if I go back here and I say this person's not going to start until April. So we change them to April, we hit update, and then again that data gets refreshed back in the system. So we hit update, and then we go back to our P&L, we hit refresh, and now we probably would only have 7 people in January and February. So it's this type of what-if analysis that a lot of organizations desire to do in Excel, but really have, struggled to do because of a result of just the data not being connected to one another. So that kind of wraps up some of the detailed planning. Prophix also allows you to do detailed sales planning or detailed sales forecasting, even better, whereby you can plan out your sales elements of your P&L. by product, by customer, by unit, by revenue type. In this case, what I've shown is the ability to plan out individual units based on a price and based on a gross margin amount that we want to drive towards. So in this case, I can plan out month by month, but in this case, we're actually opening up a forecast. So there's been 4 months of actuals that have come in because we're in April now. So in this case, we're going to plan out the remainder of the year, but I don't want to plan out month by month. I want to plan a forecast for this product and for this customer. And again, I only see the customers that I have access to. So I can plan this out at an annual level and say, okay, well, our original plan was 6,000 units, so let's try to get to 7,000. That's what I think we're going to end at the end of the year. So again, I'm prompted with the allocation option, so I'll hit spread evenly, and it's going to spread across to the individual months. You can also plan out sales. You can also plan out your ledger at a weekly level as well. That's why when I did that spreading option there, you guys would have seen a option that said spreading across to 52 members. That's because there's 52 weeks in the year. So in this case, this sales model is actually week by week. This is a really differentiator for Prophix, as we allow you to do planning week or day by day in the system as well. But at the end of the day, what it's done is it's taken that 7,500, it's subtracted my 4 months of actuals and allocated the remaining amounts across to the remaining forecast months. So hopefully that all makes sense in terms of what Prophix can offer to you as a part of your detailed planning process and integrating that data right back to your financial statements in real time. So I can go back to my workflow at any given time. I can open up my project status report on the workflow, and I can understand at a holistic level where are we at in the entire planning process. So who's completed their tasks, who's waiting for submissions, who's waiting for approvals, where are we at in the overall planning process. So this entire workflow solution is really, really important and very much a time saver, and it also increases accountability and trackability throughout the planning process as well, which is really important to producing a valid and a usable plan for your organization. I just want to loop back a little bit, and we're going to kind of go back to the reporting side of things and kind of just to cap things off. So we'll give it about 10 minutes of questions at the end. But one of the things that a lot of organizations struggle with in their time management process throughout the year is month end. So month end, quarter end, year end. Producing a large number of statements, a large number of reports in a short period of time. And as a result of those reports being disconnected and being not integrated to the ERP system, it results in a lot of data exports, a lot of VLOOKUPs, HLOOKUPs, some formulas. As you've seen in Prophix, we really can help you eliminate a lot of that by the fact that Prophix is properly structured when you open up the system. So we're no longer dealing with large laundry lists of accounts. We're dealing with proper structures. So when you build reports in Prophix, you're building structured reports. So you're building based on the structures. And so if I wanted to build out a report that shows me all of my operating expense accounts, all I simply have to do is just click, and then I'll click and drag, bring operating expenses over. So as opposed to in Excel, I'd have to go right down to the bottom level, go account by account, sum those up, then sum up the payroll, sum up the operating expenses, and all those different elements. So as you can see, building their report is not only easy, but it's also very valid. It's also very consistent. So when it comes to building those reports, Prophix, in the integration that it has to your ERP system, I think many of you are on GP, it pulls all of the data out into Prophix on demand and in real time, but it also updates all of the ledger elements. So if you have a general ledger combination of account, department, cost center, location, it's going to pull all those new things out as well. So if you add a new account to the ERP, Prophix will also pick that up. And so as a result of that, it loads it into the hierarchy, and when you open a report the next time, it will automatically add the row, it will automatically add the data in, and it will sum it up. So these are things that, if you think about the amount of time you spend every month simply just performing that types of tasks and actually validating your data, that's something you can really measure with Prophix in terms of the return on investment you get from it. So once you've done all of that, you've updated all the data and you've hit refresh on the data, you can then produce a report binder. So a report binder is the ability to take a group of reports from Prophix and put them into a single package and then distribute them out to a group of users. And so, like I said earlier, every user has their own security. And so when I take this report binder, which has a lot of very generic reports or master reports like a P&L, a cash flow, a P&L by line of business, it actually is going to take on a different form based on all the different users in this distribution list. So when I send this package out, everybody receives a different cut, everybody receives a different version. Prophix puts it into any number of formats that you'd like, whether it's Excel, PDF, PowerPoint, or Word, and it will send it out into a single package that they can use and they can access either on their mobile or on their desktop. So they'll receive that package, they'll show them all the different reports that are in it, they can open it up, and then begin to go through the package and see all the data that they have access to. So we get our title page. You may want to put in some narrative, some requests that you have to provide a comment or a piece of narrative to the variants. And then they get into the individual reports. So I'll only see again the data that I have access to when I open this up. But as I go down, I go through all the different reports, I get to the very bottom and then I'm prompted with a dashboard. So, all these different elements of the dashboard that I'm seeing here are, truly specific to just my access, my user profile. So this is really, where Prophix is providing all of that, automation, all of that streamlining that you otherwise would have to do in Excel. So this is something that a lot of customers love. As I said earlier, we really developed this product for the customers. So this was something that, came up years ago as a feedback. We have to produce reports in a package every month. Can you help us build a solution that will do that? And so this is in particular something that was a customer-driven application. We worked with our customer base and we built that out. So, when you're looking at the solution, you're not just looking at a piece of software, but also a solution and a way of developing software, which is really important when you're buying something like this. So the other thing I wanted to go over to today, which was really exciting, for those of you who have seen Prophix before, we recently just launched the Prophix Web. So Prophix Web is a HTML5 browser-based interface. It has all of the same data, has all of the same workflow that the other interface has. I can open up the exact same dashboards, exact same reports. It's all streamlined, it's all integrated, it's all part of the same solution. So when I build this out and I want to open up my web dashboard, I see a beautiful dashboard. I see a beautiful interface, just like I did when I was on the desktop there. So every single element of this, again, is clickable. If I want to look at my customer sales, because when I open this up, I get a KPI that has my customer sales in it. I can launch into it. When I launch into it, it provides me with the same ad hoc environment, the same ad hoc analysis. So it gives me all of this data. I may want to look at not just 2015, and I want to look at individual periods, so I'll switch it to the individual periods here. I may want to look at more than just product revenue, so I may want to look at service revenue as well, so I'll change my roll-up structure here. So again, it's the same type of environment. We really just wanted to show this to you guys today because we're really excited to be able to launch this and offer a full web-enabled, full mobile-enabled environment that allows you to get the same data, the same functionality in a fully web environment. So you can deploy this both on your existing environments, as well as you can deploy it whereby people can access it simply just through a URL like you see above here. So I want to just wrap that off, introduce this to you guys a little bit. This is the dashboard. Many of you guys have looked at BI, looked at dashboard solutions before. I'll actually even show you how simple it was to pull this together. So we have a new module called our Dashboard Studio. The Dashboard Studio allows you to put together dashboards really quickly, really simply in the same exact environment. So it's all tile-based. If you guys have ever used widgets before, on your phone, it's a very, very similar type of UI. We did this intentionally. We want people to feel comfortable with the solution. So it allows me to pull this dashboard together very quickly. Once I pull it together, I'll then connect the different data elements. So my first KPI will be gross sales. So I'll connect it together. I'll then go in, choose my gross sales KPI, click OK. Go to my next one, choose, this one will be cash position. So it'll be a cash KPI. So in this case, I'm going to go choose my balance sheet or my cash flows. So we'll choose this one here. And this is my workflow, so exactly like you saw on the previous screen there. We have our workflow. You can set it up so people only see their in progress, what's past due, all those different types of things. You can also begin to integrate into your various dashboards and your reports as well. If you use any kind of web type of reporting, you can do that as well. So you can bring in your charts from web URLs. You can embed them in Prophix here. So I can pull this dashboard together very quickly, very easily, save it, and then begin to publish it on our dashboard. So this will be our new dashboard 2, and then I can go ahead and access it very quickly and very easily just by going over to my Document Explorer. So we've put this dashboard together in a very quick amount of time, and now we can begin to access it. So this is something, again, we just wanted to show this in the webinar today. It's an update from our last webinar. We're really excited to begin to launch this and be able to offer this to our customers going forward. So I'll turn it over to back to the Turnkey team for any questions that may have come up. Again, if you have questions, feel free to jump into the chat window, and Brad and Kayla will pick those up, and we'll be able to answer them today.
Hi, it looks like we do have a couple questions submitted. First one, does Prophix allow for allocation of costs?
Yeah, it does. So similarly, like we were in the template earlier, so I'll jump into that same template in the web here, actually. So when we were looking at that earlier, whereby we were at the high level for all of our IT. So I'll switch over to all of our marketing. So when we were in that template, we were actually doing allocations seamlessly. So in the case where we were allocating all of our information technology here for the entire year, if I wanted to plan out $600,000 and I wanted to allocate those down to my various departments, as a means of doing the spread, this is where we can actually use allocation drivers. So in the case of FTE or headcount, we can use those allocation drivers as a means of doing that. So one of the beauties of this is that as long as you have the data in there, these are out-of-the-box allocation tools. You don't have to code them. You don't have to write formulas. That the allocations automatically are built into the system. So yeah, really good question.
Now, can you import data from Excel for items not stored in GP, such as FTE or personnel data?
Yeah, absolutely. So we provide integration, obviously, to GP and to a little over 200 databases, actually, but we also provide integration to Excel. The reason why we built that out is a lot of companies have done their budgets in Excel. So as a result of that, we've provided that as an integration. So you can definitely load in your existing budget or data that's in Excel into Prophix and then begin to use it and model it.
And Prophix does integrate into more than just GP?
Yep. We've done GP. So in the dynamic space, we have GP, AX, NAV, and SL. But we have a little over 200 data integrations. So chances are Prophix has an integration. We've been around for 28 years, so we've had a good amount of time to build out all our different integration catalogs and databases. So you can definitely use it to integrate to any number of databases that you have in your organization. We just simply use a very industry standard ODBC connection.
Now, these were wanting to know if Prophix, they can use Prophix to plan their balance sheet and cash flows.
Yes, yes, you definitely can. So as a part of Prophix, you saw some of the income statement and balance sheet and cash flow hierarchies in there. So when we're going through and we're actually planning out our P&L, as a result of planning the P&L out, we're actually planning out our plan data as well. So for example, if I switch over to this integrated financial statement report, when I go back to my OPEX plan, and just for as an example, if I go into March, and in March I increase this number to something really big, so we'll do $750,000. So when I plan out these different elements in our template here, the beauty of this is that we're planning it out, but it's actually having a result on more than just our P&L. So when I create this and I begin to fill out the template, the beauty of it is as I'm planning out the P&L, I'm actually planning out more than just the P&L. So as I go back over to integrated financial statements and shows the balance sheet and the cash flow, when I hit refresh, it's actually going to update all of the P&L elements as well. So we went from 22 million to 23 million. As a result of that, on our net income, it put that over to our cash flows, and then from the cash flows, it also put it over to our balance sheet, because as we all know, the balance sheet has current year net income. So as a result of doing the P&L plan, you can also begin to plan out all the other elements of your balance sheet and your cash flow in the system as well.
And if we wanted to get a tailored demo, how would we set that up?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So as I said earlier, Turnkey is our implementation partner that you guys will work with. So if you have any questions or you wanted to get a tailored demo, feel free to reach out to the Turnkey team. Michelle, obviously I think everybody knows Michelle, but you can reach out to anybody, Kayla, Chris Garadini, to Brad. They'll all make sure you get to the right person, and then I will work with you and I'll work with the Turnkey team, and we'll build out a tailored demo for your requirements.
Okay, and another one just came in. We have multiple locations, each with their own P&L and balance sheets. Some of our accounts are budgeted at the company level and allocated down. Others are budgeted by the individual location manager. Can we set up a workflow so the location manager is only budgeting the accounts they need to do so?
Yes, absolutely. So you can not only set up the workflow, but we would also set up the security for those location managers such that they're only planning at the level that you would want them to be planning at. So yeah, we would not only do it through workflow, we'd also set it up from a security perspective so that people are only accessing the data and they're only planning the data at the levels that they should be planning it at. And so you can set it up that way, but we would do it in a two-phased approach to assure accuracy and consistency.